The summer air was warm as Lily Martinez played with her toy rocket in the backyard. Her father, Frank, watched her from the kitchen window while washing dishes. Frank had served in the Navy for 10 years before settling down in this quiet Ohio neighborhood. His wife had died 2 years ago, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. "Daddy, look how high it goes," Lily shouted as she threw her rocket into the air. Frank smiled and gave her a thumbs up. The phone rang, and he turned away to answer it. The call was from his neighbor about borrowing a lawnmower. It took less than a minute. When Frank looked back out the window, Lily was gone. "Lily?" Frank called, stepping onto the back porch. The yard was empty. Her rocket lay abandoned on the grass. "Lily!" He shouted louder, panic rising in his chest. Frank ran into the yard, checking behind trees and bushes. He jumped the fence and searched the neighbors' yards. Soon, other families joined the search, calling Lily's name through the streets. The police arrived 30 minutes later. They started a formal search and took Frank's statement. "I only looked away for a minute," Frank said, his voice shaking. Officer Pete Johnson nodded and wrote in his notebook, "We'll find her, sir." As night fell, search teams with dogs combed the neighborhood. News vans parked on the street. Frank paced in his living room, unable to sit still. At the police station, Chief Gloria Harris reviewed security footage from cameras in the area. On one recording from across the street, she saw something strange. A bright light appeared above Lily, surrounding her completely. When the light vanished, so had Lily. Chief Harris called the FBI. By morning, FBI agents had taken over Frank's house. They questioned him again and again, as if he might have done something wrong. Frank's neighbor, Ben Clark, brought over the security footage from his doorbell camera. "You need to see this," Ben told the agents. The footage clearly showed a beam of light taking Lily. One agent made a phone call immediately, speaking in hushed tones. 3 days passed. Search efforts expanded, but Frank knew something was wrong. The FBI agents wouldn't look him in the eye. News reports began mentioning unexplained phenomena. On the 4th day, Frank was driven to a military base. No one would tell him why. He was led into a conference room where serious-faced people in suits waited. "Mr. Martinez," a woman said, stepping forward. "I'm Linda Nelson, National Security Advisor. We need to show you something." A screen on the wall lit up. It showed a strange, inhuman face. The creature had gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible nose. It spoke in a clicking language, while English subtitles appeared below. "We have taken one immature human for study. This specimen will help us determine Earth's threat level to galactic security. We will return the specimen when our analysis is complete, if Earth proves non-threatening." The video changed to show Lily in a glass room. She wore the same pink dress from the day she disappeared. She was crying, looking around at invisible observers, calling for her daddy. Frank lunged at the screen. "Where is she? Who are they?" "We call them the Vexenar Collective," Linda explained. "This message was broadcast on all military channels worldwide 1 hour ago. NASA has detected their ship moving away from our solar system. Get her back," Frank demanded, his voice breaking. "You have to get her back." The President of the United States walked into the room. Everyone stood except Frank, who couldn't find the strength to rise. "Mr. Martinez," the President said, "I promise you this. We will get your daughter back." He turned to the others. "Contact all allied nations. Activate the Artemis Protocol." Linda gasped. "Sir, are you certain? Once deployed." "They took a child," the President interrupted. "They need to learn that was their worst possible move." He looked back at Frank. "We've been preparing for this day for 50 years. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten one of our own." 24 hours after the alien message, world leaders gathered in a secret bunker beneath Geneva. The room buzzed with urgent whispers as military officers from every major nation shared information. Frank Martinez sat in the corner, looking lost among the powerful people around him. "The Vexnar ship is moving at speeds we can barely track," said General Susan Lee, pointing to a holographic display. "But we can still follow their path." The president stood at the head of the table. "Ladies and gentlemen, for 50 years, Earth has been preparing for this moment. After the first alien probe was discovered in Antarctica in 1974, world governments agreed to develop defenses in secret. A tall woman with gray hair stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Olivia Wright. I've studied alien biology for 30 years. The Vexnar see themselves as galactic zookeepers. They collect and study species to determine if they're threats." "And they took my daughter," Frank said, his voice cutting through the room. Dr. Wright nodded sadly. "They likely chose a child because they think children are less dangerous. They don't understand human bonds, or that taking a child is the surest way to provoke us." Admiral Richard Carter, a stern man with weathered skin, pressed a button on the table. A new hologram appeared, showing thousands of small objects. "This is the Artemis Protocol," he explained. "Not ships in the traditional sense, but self-replicating drone swarms. Each unit can join with others to form larger vessels, or split apart to avoid damage. They're powered by fusion reactors and built from materials mined from the asteroid belt." The room went silent as the image expanded, showing more and more dots until they filled the display. 800,000 primary units, Admiral Carter continued, each one capable of becoming a carrier for smaller attack drones. "We've hidden them in underground bases in orbit and on the far side of the moon." "Why haven't we used this technology on Earth?" asked the British Prime Minister. "Because it would change everything," Dr. Wright replied. "These machines could solve energy crises, build cities overnight, or become unstoppable weapons. The nations of Earth agreed to save this technology for extraterrestrial threats only." Frank stood up, his hands shaking. "I don't care about your secret toys. Can they bring Lily back?" Admiral Carter looked him in the eye. "Yes, Mr. Martinez. They can cross the distance in weeks instead of years using gravity manipulation. They can find the Vexnar homeworld. And they can make those aliens regret ever hearing about Earth." The Chinese president spoke next. "If we deploy this fleet, we reveal our true capabilities to the galaxy. There's no going back." "They crossed the line," the American president replied. "We've detected signals suggesting there are other spacefaring races watching this situation. What happens next will establish humanity's place among the stars. Do we let them take our children, or do we show the galaxy that humanity protects its own?" The vote was unanimous. Admiral Carter began sending activation codes from his secure tablet. "Mr. Martinez," he said, "we want you to join the command team. No one has more right to be part of this mission than you." Frank nodded, his eyes hard with determination. Across Earth, hidden doors opened in desert floors. Mountain sides slid apart. Ocean platforms rose from the depths. In each location, swarms of metallic objects lifted into the sky, their surfaces gleaming in the sunlight. Captain William Reeves watched from the main Earth Command Center as the first wave launched. He had been training for this mission his entire career, though he never truly believed it would happen. "Captain," called Lieutenant Samantha Boyd from her console, "the first units are already beginning assembly in orbit. They're forming the command ship." On screens around the world, civilians watched in awe as the sky filled with moving lights. News anchors struggled to explain what they were seeing. Governments released statements about a proportional response to alien aggression. In space, the swarm gathered, individual units connecting to form massive ships with Earth's new flag on their sides. A simple image of a blue planet with a protective shield around it. The message to the stars was clear: "Take one of ours, and we will come for you." The main command ship formed in Earth orbit over 3 days. Smaller units connected like puzzle pieces, creating a vessel 5 miles long. Its name appeared on the hull in many languages. Retribution. Captain William Reeves stood on the bridge, watching his crew prepare for departure. He had never commanded anything larger than a destroyer before. Now he would lead humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. "Captain, all systems are operational," reported Lieutenant Samantha Boyd. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels as she spoke. "The swarm intelligence is fully online." Reeves nodded. The ships weren't just machines. They had advanced AI systems that could think and adapt. Lieutenant Boyd was one of the few people who truly understood how they worked. "How long until we can follow the alien trail?" Reeves asked. "The quantum sensors are picking up their path now. We can depart in 6 hours." Frank Martinez entered the bridge, escorted by 2 officers. He looked different than he had at the Geneva meeting. His eyes were clear and focused. He had shaved and wore a uniform similar to the crew's, though without rank insignia. "Mr. Martinez," Captain Reeves said, extending his hand. "Welcome aboard." Frank shook the captain's hand firmly. "Thank you for letting me join you." "Your presence reminds us all what's at stake," Reeves replied. "This isn't just a military operation. It's a father looking for his daughter." Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Reeves, the fleet is ready for your command. The rest of the swarm units will follow the retribution." "Understood, Admiral. We'll bring Lely home, and anyone else the Vexnar have taken." The bridge crew worked through final preparations. Scientists checked data on the Vexnar from old files. Tactical officers ran battle simulations. Navigation plotted the fastest route to follow the alien ship. Lieutenant Boyd approached Frank, who stood alone by a window looking at Earth. "Mr. Martinez, I have something to show you," she said softly. She led him to a quiet room off the main bridge. Inside was a small garden with real plants and a stream of water flowing through rocks. "Every ship needs a heart," Boyd explained. "This is ours. The crew can come here when they need peace. We've named it Lily's Garden." Frank touched a white flower gently. "Thank you." "We've also created this," Boyd said, handing him a small device. "It's tuned to your daughter's DNA signature. Once we're close enough, it should help us find her exact location." Frank clutched the device tightly. "How do you have her DNA pattern?" "From her hairbrush. The FBI collected it during the investigation." Back on the bridge, Captain Reeves received clearance to depart. The engines hummed to life, vibrating through the massive ship. "All hands, prepare for departure," Reeves announced. "Our mission is clear. Find Lily Martinez and bring her home. Show the galaxy that humanity protects its children." The Retribution moved away from Earth, followed by hundreds of smaller carrier ships. Each carrier controlled thousands of drone units that could reconfigure for different purposes: defense, attack, or rescue. As they reached the edge of the solar system, Lieutenant Boyd activated the advanced propulsion system. Space seemed to bend around them as the ships accelerated to impossible speeds. "We're tracking the Vexnar ship," Boyd reported. "They're heading toward the Orion arm of the galaxy." Frank watched stars streak by on the view screen. Somewhere among those distant lights, Lily was waiting. Was she scared? Did she think he had abandoned her? The thought made his hands clench into fists. Captain Reeves noticed Frank's expression. "We'll find her," he promised. "And what happens when we do?" Frank asked. "What happens to the aliens who took her?" Reeves' face hardened. "That depends on them. If they return her peacefully, we show mercy. If not..." He gestured to the fleet following behind them, hundreds of ships stretching back as far as they could see. "We have 800,000 reasons they should cooperate." As the Earth fleet moved deeper into space, other eyes watched their progress. The galaxy was taking notice of humanity's first steps beyond their solar system. And those steps were not peaceful ones. 2 weeks into their journey, the fleet detected a large structure floating in space. It wasn't a planet or a moon, but something built by intelligent beings. The structure looked like a giant wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. "It's a trading post," said Dr. Wright over the communication system from Earth. "The signals we're picking up match alien communications we've intercepted over the years." Captain Reeves called a meeting with his senior officers and Frank. They gathered around a table displaying a hologram of the space station. "This is our first chance to learn more about the Vexnar," Reeves said. "But we need to be careful. We don't know if they have allies." Lieutenant Boyd studied the sensor readings. There are ships from at least 12 different species docked at the station. None matched the Vexnar vessel that took Lily. "We should send a small team," suggested Commander Grace Miller, the fleet's diplomatic officer. "A show of force might scare them, but a few representatives could gather information." Captain Reeves nodded. "Commander Miller, you'll lead the team. Take Lieutenant Boyd and a security detail. Mr. Martinez, would you like to join them?" Frank nodded without hesitation. "Yes, these aliens might know where Lily is." The Retribution moved closer to the trading post and launched a shuttle. As they approached, they received a transmission in several languages, including broken English. "Unknown vessel, identify purpose of visit," came a gravelly voice. Commander Miller responded, "We are from Earth. We seek information about the Vexnar Collective." There was a long pause before the reply came. "Docking permission granted. Weapons not permitted." The shuttle docked at one of the smaller ports. When the door opened, Frank and the team saw their first aliens up close. The dock manager had 4 arms, blue skin, and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle pattern. Behind him stood security guards with similar features but darker skin. "I am Zort, station manager," the alien said in English. "Many speak of Earth vessels. Very sudden appearance in galactic community." Commander Miller stepped forward. "We apologize for any alarm we've caused. The Vexnar took a child from our world. We've come to get her back." Zort's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Vexnar are collectors. They study many species. They stole my daughter," Frank said, his voice tight with emotion. "Her name is Lily." The alien looked at Frank with what seemed like sympathy. "Come, I show you to information merchants." Zort led them through corridors filled with strange beings. Some looked almost human, while others resembled plants or insects. The humans tried not to stare, but it was difficult. They entered a room where a small gray creature sat surrounded by floating screens. The alien had a large head and 6-fingered hands that moved quickly through the air, manipulating data. "Krill sells information," Zort explained. "For price." Lieutenant Boyd stepped forward. "What do you want in exchange for information about the Vexnar?" The information merchant named Krill spoke in a high-pitched voice. "Knowledge for knowledge. Tell me of Earth Fleet. How so many ships so fast?" Commander Miller hesitated, looking at Lieutenant Boyd. They had been instructed not to reveal too much about Earth's technology. Frank interrupted their silent exchange. "We'll tell you what you want to know after you help us find my daughter." Krill's large black eyes narrowed. "Very well. Vexnar home system is 3 sectors from here. They are ancient race, respected and feared. They collect specimens from developing worlds to assess potential threats." The merchant tapped one of the floating screens, showing an image of a ringed planet with several moons. "Vexnar homeworld. They have research facilities on 3rd moon. Many specimens kept there. Many children from different worlds." Frank leaned closer to the image. "Many children, not just Lily." Krill nodded. "Vexnar believe young ones show true nature of species. Less, what is word? Corrupted by culture. Pure samples." Lieutenant Boyd recorded the coordinates while Commander Miller asked more questions about Vexnar defenses. Frank stared at the image of the planet. "She's there," he whispered. "I can feel it." As they prepared to leave, Krill called after them. "Warning, humans. Vexnar not accustomed to resistance. They believe work is for greater good of galaxy, but many species disagree. Many will watch what Earth does next." Back on the shuttle, Commander Miller contacted Captain Reeves. "Sir, we have the coordinates, and we've learned something important. Lily isn't the only child they've taken." The Earth fleet approached the Vexnar system after 4 days of travel. Captain Reeves ordered the ships to slow down as they reached the outer planets. The main view screen on the Retribution showed the ringed planet Krill had identified as the Vexnar homeworld. "Scan for defenses," Captain Reeves ordered. Lieutenant Boyd worked at her station. "I'm detecting a line of defense satellites around the planet. There are also 50 large ships in orbit." "Are they military vessels?" Reeves asked. "Based on their energy signatures, yes. They appear to be warships." Frank stood at the back of the bridge, his hands gripping the railing tightly. They were so close to Lily now. The small device Lieutenant Boyd had given him was beeping softly, confirming that human DNA was present in this system. "Captain," said Commander Miller, "I recommend we try to communicate before taking any aggressive action. The Vexnar might return the children peacefully if they understand our determination." Reeves nodded. "Open a channel to the largest Vexnar vessel." After several minutes, the screen flickered and showed a Vexnar. The alien had gray skin that looked like stone, large black eyes, and a small mouth. It wore something like a silver robe with strange symbols. "I am Captain William Reeves of Earth," Reeves said clearly. "We have come for our child, Lily Martins, and any other children you have taken from their worlds." The Vexnar responded in a clicking language that the ship's computer translated. "I am High Commander Zex of the Vexnar Collective. Your presence is unexpected. No species has ever followed us to our homeworld." "No species has had our motivation," Reeves replied. "You took a child. We want her back." "The immature human specimen is part of an important study," Zex said. "All specimens will be returned once we determine if their species poses a threat to galactic stability." Frank stepped forward. "My daughter is not a specimen. She's a 6-year-old girl who misses her father." The Vexnar tilted its head. "You are the genetic source of the specimen." "I'm her father," Frank said firmly. "And I'm asking you, as one parent to another, to return her to me." "Vexnar do not have parents," Zex replied. "We emerge fully formed. This connection you describe is irrelevant to our research." Captain Reeves stepped beside Frank. "Then perhaps this will be relevant. We have the capability to bypass your defenses and take back our child by force. We would prefer to resolve this peacefully." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Your ships are impressive but untested. You cannot know if they will withstand Vexnar weapons." "We're willing to find out," Reeves said. "Are you?" The communication ended abruptly. Lieutenant Boyd looked up from her station with alarm. "Captain, they're powering weapons. The defense satellites are activating." "All ships, defensive formation," Reeves ordered. "Do not fire unless fired upon." The Earth fleet spread out, the smaller carrier ships moving to protect the Retribution. On the view screen, the Vexnar ships were advancing. "They're firing," Boyd shouted. Bright beams of energy shot from the Vexnar ships toward the Earth fleet. When they hit the first ships, something unexpected happened. The human vessels absorbed the energy, their hulls glowing briefly. "The swarm is adapting," Lieutenant Boyd explained. "The drones are reconfiguring to absorb and redirect their energy weapons." Frank watched in amazement as the Earth ships began to change shape. Some merged together to form larger units, while others split apart to avoid being hit. "Return fire," Captain Reeves ordered. "Target their weapon systems only. We're not here to destroy them." The Earth fleet fired back. Precise energy pulses disabled 2 Vexnar ships, leaving them drifting in space. "Sir," Commander Miller called out, "we're receiving transmissions from several other ships in the system. They're not Vexnar vessels. They appear to be from other species." "Put them through," Reeves said. A variety of alien faces appeared on separate screens. Each one spoke urgently, their words translated by the computer. "We have children taken by the Vexnar. Our offspring are in the research facility on the 3rd moon. Please help us as you help yourselves." Frank looked at all the alien parents, seeing his own pain reflected in their strange faces. This was no longer just about saving Lily. It was about ending the Vexnar's practice of taking children from across the galaxy. While the space battle continued around the planet, Captain Reeves called his officers together for an emergency meeting. Frank joined them, his face set with determination. "We need to reach that research facility on the third moon," Reeves said, pointing to a hologram of the Vexnar system. "That's where they're keeping the children." Lieutenant Boyd studied the scans of the moon. "The facility has strong shields. We can't transport through them, and a direct assault might put the children at risk." "What about a small team?" Frank suggested. "While the fleet keeps the Vexnar busy, a few of us could slip through to the moon." Captain Reeves considered the idea. "It could work. We have stealth technology that might get past their sensors." "I'm going," Frank said firmly. It wasn't a request. Reeves nodded. "I expected nothing less, Mr. Martinez. Lieutenant Boyd, you'll go too. Your knowledge of the swarm technology will be vital. I'll also send 4 security officers." Within an hour, the small team boarded a special shuttle designed to avoid detection. Lieutenant Boyd controlled a swarm of microscopic drones that surrounded the shuttle, bending light around it to make it nearly invisible. "The Vexnar are focused on our main fleet," Boyd explained as they departed the Retribution. "We should be able to reach the moon without being noticed." The shuttle moved silently through the battle. Frank watched through the window as Earth ships and Vexnar vessels exchanged fire. The Earth fleet was holding its own, adapting to each new Vexnar weapon. They landed on the dark side of the moon, a mile from the research facility. The team put on spacesuits designed to work in the moon's thin atmosphere. "The DNA tracker is working perfectly," Boyd said, checking the device in Frank's hand. "It's showing multiple human signatures inside the facility." "Multiple?" Frank asked. "They've taken other human children." "It appears so," Boyd replied grimly. The team moved carefully across the moon's surface, staying low to avoid being seen. When they reached the facility, they found an entrance used for supply deliveries. Boyd's microscopic drones helped them bypass the security system, and they slipped inside. The interior of the research facility was brightly lit with white walls and strange symbols. The team moved through empty corridors, following the signal from the DNA tracker. "This way," Frank whispered, though there was no one to hear them. They reached a large circular room with glass enclosures around the edges. Inside each enclosure was a child, but not all of them were human. There were creatures with blue skin, others with extra limbs, some covered in fur or scales, but all of them were clearly young, and all looked frightened. Frank rushed to one enclosure where a small human girl sat on a bed, hugging her knees. She wore the same pink dress as in the Vexnar transmission, though it was wrinkled and dirty now. "Lily," Frank called, pressing his hand against the glass. The girl looked up, her eyes widening. "Daddy," she cried, running to the glass. "I'm here, sweetie. I'm going to get you out," Frank promised, tears streaming down his face inside his helmet. Lieutenant Boyd worked quickly at a control panel, trying to release the locks on the enclosures. "There are hundreds of children here," she said, "from at least 20 different species." Suddenly, alarms began to sound. The doors to the circular room slid open, and several Vexnar entered. They carried weapons and moved quickly toward the human team. "Stop," ordered one of the Vexnar. "You are interfering with critical research." The security officers raised their weapons, but Frank stepped between them and the aliens. "This isn't research," he said firmly. "It's kidnapping. These are children, not specimens. They belong with their families." The lead Vexnar scientist tilted its head. "Families. This connection is what drove you across space with such force, for one small being." "Yes," Frank said simply. "And I'd do it again. Any human would." The Vexnar looked at each other, clicking in their strange language. One of them stepped forward, lowering its weapon. "Perhaps we have miscalculated," it said slowly. "The response of your species was unexpected. The same is true for others who have come seeking their young." Lieutenant Boyd, still working at the control panel, looked up in surprise. "Others have come here. None with your level of technology or determination," the Vexnar admitted. "But yes, We believed our work protected the galaxy. We did not understand the strength of these bonds. The glass enclosure around Lily suddenly slid open. She ran to Frank, who knelt down and embraced her, his spacesuit awkwardly bending as he held his daughter for the first time in weeks. Frank held Lily tightly, unwilling to let go even as the Vexnar watched them curiously. Lily sobbed against his shoulder, her small hands gripping his spacesuit. "I knew you'd come, Daddy," she whispered. "I told the other kids my daddy would find me." Lieutenant Boyd continued working at the control panel. One by one, the glass enclosures around the room slid open. Children of various species cautiously stepped out, some rushing to the exits while others stood confused, unsure what to do. "We need to get them all to safety," Boyd said. "But our shuttle is too small for hundreds of children." Frank looked up at the Vexnar scientist who had lowered its weapon. "Will you help us? These children need to go home." The alien hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I am Mev, lead researcher. I begin to understand our error. The devotion you show to your offspring. It exists in many species. We did not comprehend its strength. Contact Captain Reeves," Frank told Lieutenant Boyd. "Tell him we found Lily and hundreds of other children. We need transport ships." Boyd spoke into her communicator while Frank turned back to Mev. "Why did you take them?" "Really? The Vexnar are ancient," Mev explained. "We have watched many species rise and fall. Some become violent, destroying other worlds. We believed by studying the young, we could predict which species might become threats." "And did you find any threats?" Frank asked, still holding Lily protectively. "No," Mev admitted. "We found only beings who missed their homes." Outside the facility, the battle had changed. Several Vexnar ships had stopped firing, their commanders confused by new orders coming from the planet's surface. The High Council of the Vexnar Collective was divided, some wanting to continue the fight, others questioning their long-standing practices. On the Retribution, Captain Reeves received Boyd's message. "All carrier ships, prepare for rescue operations," he commanded. "We're bringing home hundreds of children from across the galaxy." He opened a channel to the lead Vexnar warship. "High Commander Zex, we have entered your research facility. We found not just our child, but hundreds of others. We're taking them all home." Zex's image appeared on screen, his stone-like face unreadable. "This violates our protocols. The study must be completed." "The study is over," Reeves replied firmly. "Some of your own scientists agree. This isn't research, it's kidnapping." Before Zex could respond, another Vexnar appeared beside him. This one wore elaborate robes and had markings that suggested greater authority. "I am Supreme Elder Taz of the Vexnar Collective," the new alien announced. "Our council has convened an emergency session. Some find your arguments persuasive. The strength of your response suggests we have misunderstood key aspects of your species." Back on the moon, transport ships began landing near the facility. Security teams helped guide the children aboard, grouping them by species when possible. Frank carried Lily onto the first ship, while Lieutenant Boyd worked with Mev to identify each child's homeworld. "Some have been here for years," Mev explained, showing Boyd their records. "We never considered they might be suffering." "Didn't they cry?" Frank asked, unable to hide his anger. "Didn't they ask for their parents?" "We thought it was simply an adjustment period," Mev replied, looking genuinely troubled. "We have no concept of family." Vexnar emerged fully formed and independent. As the rescue operation continued, signals came in from across the galaxy. Other species had detected the battle and were sending ships, not to fight, but to help retrieve their children. The Earth fleet made room for these new allies, coordinating the largest rescue mission the galaxy had ever seen. On the transport ship, Lily sat in Frank's lap, looking out the window at the stars. She pointed to a small blue dot barely visible in the distance. "Is that home?" she asked. "Not yet," Frank said gently. "But we're going there soon. I promise." His communicator beeped. It was Captain Reeves. Mr. Martinez, the Vexnar Supreme Elder, has offered an official apology. They're standing down their fleet and offering assistance in returning all children to their home planets. Frank looked down at Lily, then at the other children on the transport. Blue ones, furry ones, some with extra limbs or eyes. All of them had parents somewhere who loved them just as much as he loved Lily. "Tell them we accept their help," Frank replied. "And tell them this can never happen again." 3 months after the battle at the Vexnar homeworld, a grand meeting took place on a neutral space station. Representatives from 27 alien species gathered in a large chamber built specially for this historic event. At the center sat the Earth delegation, led by the president himself. Frank and Lily Martinez were given seats of honor. Lily wore a new blue dress and held her father's hand tightly. She had recovered well from her time with the Vexnar, though she still had nightmares sometimes. "The galactic community welcomes Earth as a full member," announced the chairperson, a tall being with golden skin. "Your actions in the Vexnar rescue have earned you great respect." The president stood to address the gathering. "Earth came to the stars because one child was taken. We discovered a galaxy larger and more diverse than we ever imagined. Today, we pledge to protect all children of all species from harm." A new treaty was presented on a glowing tablet. It was called the Lily Accord, named after the human child whose abduction had changed the galaxy. The treaty established that no species could take children from another world without permission, for any reason. The Vexnar Supreme Elder Taz was the first to sign, using a ceremonial stylus. "The Vexnar Collective acknowledges our error," Taz stated. "We have disbanded our collection program and released all research data to the affected species." One by one, representatives from each world signed the treaty. When it was Earth's turn, the president gestured to Frank. "Mr. Martinez should sign for Earth," the president said. "He showed the galaxy what one determined father can accomplish." Frank stepped forward, surprised by the honor. He signed the document, then lifted Lily so she could add her handprint beside his signature. After the ceremony, Captain Reeves approached Frank and Lily. He wore a formal uniform with new insignia, showing his promotion to admiral. "The Retribution is ready for its next mission," Reeves told them. "We're taking the last group of rescued children home. Would you and Lily like to join us? Many families have asked to meet you." Lily looked up at her father with excitement. "Can we go, Daddy? I want to see my friends get home too." Frank nodded. The past months had changed him. He had seen wonders beyond imagination and helped reunite hundreds of families across the stars. "Yes, I think that's exactly what we should do." Back on Earth, the world was transformed. The existence of aliens was now common knowledge. The technology used to build the fleet was carefully being adapted for peaceful purposes, healing diseases, solving the energy crisis, cleaning the environment. Most of the supercarriers remained in space, converted into exploration vessels or diplomatic stations. Some formed a protective network around Earth and its new allies. The swarm units were programmed never to replicate beyond their current numbers, a safeguard everyone agreed was wise. On the Retribution's observation deck, Lily pressed her nose against the window as they approached a beautiful blue and green planet. "This is the home of the Aquilari children," Lieutenant Boyd explained, pointing to 3 small blue-skinned children who bounced with excitement. "They live mostly underwater in floating cities." As the ship entered orbit, signals came from the planet's surface. The view screen showed crowds of Aquilari gathered around massive floating platforms, waiting to welcome their children home. "They're happy, like you were happy to see me," Lily said to her father. Frank nodded, watching the joyful reunions on the screen. Every parent feels the same way about their child, no matter what planet they're from. Admiral Reeves joined them, looking at the star map showing their journey ahead. "We have 4 more worlds to visit. Then the mission is complete." "Not quite," Frank said. "I've been talking with some of the other parents. We're forming a new organization, an interspecies group dedicated to protecting children's rights across the galaxy. We're calling it Lily's Promise. Reeves smiled. From one kidnapped child to a galactic peace movement. Not bad, Mr. Martinez. Frank looked down at Lily, who was now teaching one of the alien children to play rock, paper, scissors. She was worth sending every ship we had, he said quietly. And now look what she's helped create. As the Retribution continued its journey among the stars, the story of how Earth sent 800,000 supercarriers to rescue one child became legend. It was told on planets across the galaxy as a reminder that some bonds transcend all differences, and that humanity, when pushed, was a force unlike any the universe had ever seen.